Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Fortress, and joining me today, his endless dream is to be left alone. Sweet John's a Kovacs from the internet.
Nobody bother me.
And you know he's going to dream a little dream. Welcome back, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I'm always in the mood for a good convention.
Oh, it doesnst matter what kind of convention. Oh, wait, no, maybe it kind of does actually matter.
It does matter, yes.
Maybe it matters a lot more than, because my goodness, boy, does the second half of Sandman take some a wild and crazy turns, boys and girls. Welcome back. We are talking about the Sandman because you people voted over there on patreon.com.
What you mean, you people?
You people, the awesome people that take their time, precious money, and go on over to patreon.com/HMP. Help us you get the pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, and you get to vote on it. So let's go over the voting choices and what everybody had to choose from. Bottom of the barrel, tied for 3% at the bottom, was Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie and Umbrella Academy Season 3. We say to them, adios muchachos. You are gone. Off of the table. Taking both of those and doubling their 3% to go to 6%. So this one goes for both of them. Was Supersonic Man, the Riff Tracks version on Tubi, that got up to 6%. So really, it was only a two-way fight between Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers from 2022 and wrapping up Sandman. And Sandman came in at a whopping 52% versus 35%. So everybody was all about the Sandman this week. So that's what we came back to do. And I listened back to our first talk of the first 3 episodes of Sandman and everything. So it was interesting to go back and see what we were talking about, what my expectations for things were, and where this thing ends up. So we're going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But again, giant thank you to those who vote over patreon.com/HMP. Thank you to all of you fine people. And we got more stuff coming up. And we got a theme month this month. We'll talk about that towards the end of the show here and everything. But let's get into it, guys. Here is the trailer for Sandman.
Your waking world is shaped by dreams. Dreams and nightmares that I create and which I must control.
He's out there looking for me, isn't he?
Can you imagine the damage he could do?
I need your help. If dreams disappear, then so will humanity.
You could do without dreams for a while. I haven't had a decent night's sleep in ages.
I'm not gonna stop until I've reshaped this world.
Tell us, what power of dreams you have?
I thought about giving up, but I have a job to do, and I do it.
Things have changed.
Your eyes will tell me everything. Every thought, every feeling.
My creations do not walk amongst the living, killing mortals for pleasure.
Oh, you don't think dreams can die? Let's find out.
Nightmares do not belong in the waking world.
Oh, it turns out I fit right in.
Dreams don't die.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
Alrighty, that was the trailer for Sandman. You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's comic book connection.
I love these because when they come on the heels of us having done the first 3 episodes so far. So I'd love to see what he's got. Bruce, what do you got?
The Sound of Her Wings is the title of issue number 8 of Sandman. It was released on June 27th, 1989. This issue was the proper introduction to the world of Neil Gaiman's very particular take on the entity of death. And the story is basically about a depressed Morpheus getting cheered up by his sister, Death. And I don't know about you fair listeners out there, but I've always thought of death as something that's kind of depressing. But Gaiman, he makes the Lady Death the most charismatic and likable member of the Endless for certain, and maybe even the most out of any character in the series. I mean, what kind of mad genius creates a cheerful personification of death? It just isn't done. Well, in the comic, as we and Dream follow Death along on her rounds, well, my favorite death has to be that of Esme. And I ask, is it right to have a favorite death? Probably not. But Esme is doing a stand-up set, and her microphone shorts out and electrocutes her to death. And I think if you're a mid-30s or later road comic doing the middle sets at a strip mall comedy club, getting killed by an electrified microphone on stage isn't that much worse than any other part of that job, right?
No, you are absolutely right on that one, buddy.
But go back over 10 years when I was aimlessly wandering from one open mic to the next. Every time I got called to the stage, I had to quietly ask myself, is tonight the night? Is tonight the night I get Esma'd? Well, obviously, since I'm recording this, I never got Esma'd, but that doesn't mean I didn't die on stage a few times. And speaking of dying on stage, Adam, do you have a list?
Well, if that comic connection wasn't enough for everybody, let me sell you on this second half of the Sandman, and buckle up, because this sucker's got everything. Bringing your own fire to hell. That sounds like super fun. Love it. Patton is back. We got Professor Lupin from Harry Potter is here. The therapist from Ted Lasso. We got Susie the Rottweiler, a dude who looks like Dick Miller. Stephen Fry, who surely supplied his own wardrobe and makeup. We got Kmart Wallace Shawn, Pumpkinhead, Undercut Guy, a girl that kind of looked like what Fiona Apple looked like. Gong banging. Neil Gaiman out here making characters have fights with stories that they're making up on the fly. You're not going to find that in Rings of Power. We got a Red Ruby. People FaceTiming instead of texting. Who does that? Unrequited flirting, complete with terrifying reason why. Death comes in, and really the fun starts to crank up. We travel every 100 years in like several times in one episode, which was great. A child actor who will remind you that not all child actors are built the same. They're not all goodies. Goldie the Gargoyle, MIA Little Brother, stained glass dancing, eyeball plucking, throat stabbing, finger chopping, eye stabbing, face ripping, dream hopping, a kid superhero that would make Bible Man scoff with derision, a Terminator 2 reference, Ghost Baby breaking down the walls of dreams, Dana Carvey and Gary Oldman's love child in drag, and just when you thought it couldn't get more gay, everything comes up roses at least like 3 times. A grass sinkhole in a story that will sometimes make you go, that's an amazing way to look at life, Neil, and other times make you go, wow, you really need to lighten up, sir. This show's got everything.
So there's so much to cover here with especially with them dropping the secret episode at the end of this season, where if gun to my head, I still think that episode 5 is still my favorite. Episode 5, is it? No, episode 6.
Yeah,
which is
the wood that everybody
is that Death?
Yeah, that's the sound of her wings.
Yeah, so that's Death, and that's the every 100 years coming back to meet his buddy.
Well, the sound of her wings is the part with Lady Death. I mean, the whole episode is titled that, but the sound of her wings specifically is the story of Lady Death going around and killing people, basically. And then it's a separate story that they kind of tied into it, made it flow pretty well, about the guy he meets every 100 years at the pub. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've noticed that a lot of these are taking a couple of issues of the comics, and the comic itself is sort of anthology.
Yeah.
It has like an anthology feel to it. It has some arcs, but it has a lot of anthology feel. And you can like tell when we're going from one anthology story to the next, because there's only like the loosest sometimes connection between the 2 stories that are in the episode.
I think that's what I
my
found.
God, man, that 6th episode.
It's wonderful. And
it is so good that like I recommend this series just for that episode, and now the 11th episode, because that's an amazing episode also.
Well, a lot of people think that The Sound of Her Wings is the best Sandman single issue comic too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're not alone. Like, people just love that story. Lady Death, or Death, is such a popular character out of that. And I think that, a great story when done well is still a great story when you adapt it to the screen. So I think it worked really well, and throwing in it was really a nice touch to throw in the thing with the guy he meets every 100 years, because they did tie it into Death well.
So wonderful.
Now, my personal, I don't know if I would call it favorite, so much as just most memorable, but I'll just go ahead and say favorite to streamline it. My favorite is the diner story.
Yeah, I think that's where my
diner and everybody's killing themselves when he gets them to be honest with one another. Like that was probably my personal favorite, and I love the serial convention, but that goes across more than one issue. But yeah, they're all great, man. But what were you saying? You like the diner story? I kept waiting because I was worried when I was watching the show because I didn't look ahead, didn't know the names or synopses or anything for any of the episodes. And, there's a part where he, Dr. Destiny, John D, has the lady that he's hitchhiking with take him to like a gas station or something. And like he walks in and then they turn around and walk out. And I thought that gas station, they took that whole awesome diner scene and they turned it into like,
that's great.
To the gas station.
That's great.
Yeah, but that wasn't what happened. Thank goodness. Even though it is a Goyer project, that is not what happened.
But you know what that sounds like? That sounds like some the Dark Knight expectation busting.
Yes, it
just
does.
to flip it back around,
Yeah,
this what you said? No, terrible. But yeah, it's interesting because like looking back, those first 3 episodes, I think you really do need to get to 4. I think, Sean, like you had that initial impression of like maybe you guys should get to episode 4 because to me that's where surprisingly I was just like I got into it. I got into it a lot more because I just something about it. Maybe I'd had enough time in between stuff. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but all of a sudden it was just like, oh, okay. I see what this show is and I see what they're doing now. And it seemed to make a little bit more sense. I felt like my feet were finally underneath me. And then getting stuff like that episode and then the diner episode and then death, it was just like this progression, like especially like there's no way I would have thought that this story ends up remotely even close to what we end it at the end of the season. And to me, that's a far thing that you get these days to where you just like, I have no idea that's where this thing is going to be at the end of this because it's not in what your normal trajectory of this type of story would be. And I think that is that little Neil Gaiman flavor on it that like other people just aren't going to be doing.
What I was going to say is he does, when he writes ongoing books, he does a lot of anthology writing. And there are themes that carry through, and there might be some lines of the story that carry through, but it's not what you think of as your typical serialized comics. But sometimes he will have an arc that comes in there, and it is more traditional too. But yeah, that shows Neil Gaiman really, in my opinion, this just shows that Neil Gaiman really is involved. Not necessarily involved hands-on with the screenwriting, but with the direction the show's going, because it does have such a Gaiman feel to it. When I could think a lot of other people would try to hammer it into a more traditional narrative and give us something that feels a little more like Lucifer,
Yeah. And I got to say that this is the show where I was like, we've gotten to a point now where John Cameron Mitchell is like the most, like the most like heartfelt character on a comic book show. The guy who played Hedwig, that guy Crazy, is the one that you like attach your heart to. Like it's just so funny.
I recognized the guy till you said he was Hedwig, but now it's all making sense. It's all coming to place.
It's just so funny that I guess it really is like that saying is where if you stick around long enough, like you might be a prostitute, but you're going to be that prostitute that everybody loves in 25 years. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Because I can remember, I don't want to get too deep in the woods here, but I can remember seeing that play. And it was like, and the people who loved it, loved the play. And I love the play. I think it's a great one. It's a great musical. But there were people who were like, we are going to burn this place down because this play exists. And now here we are, smash cut to 25 years later. And like, oh, you know what? I sure hope that Hal Carter makes it out okay. You know what I mean? It's so strange to me. It's so bloody strange.
Well, I'll say that I thought it did finish strong with the serial convention and that storyline. That is where we knew it was going because they give us the Corinthian in the first episode. But that's also, I think, where you can just predict any season 1 of Sandman is going to deal with the serial convention, not just from where it falls in the comics and how it just seems to be begging to be adapted more than some of his other stories.
Yeah.
But what I'll say again is at least they didn't try to hammer it so that the whole thing is almost like Silence of the Lambs. You know what I mean? With
yes,
trying to do his mental chess game with the Corinthian. And, you know, they could have easily said, you know, people are loving stuff like Mindhunter and people are loving true crime. How about we take the serial killer crap? And it's not crap. It's good stuff. But we take the serial killer story, and that's what all 10 episodes are about. That I wouldn't have wanted.
No. And you know, have either of you read, because Neil Gaiman released that John Peters script?
Oh.
Neil Gaiman released the John Peters script?
Yes.
I don't know how this works, but okay, I'm on board.
I don't know how he got it, but I like the story.
So John Peters somehow was one of the producers to the rights of adapting the Sandman.
He played Bones with somebody in a back alley in one of them, I'd imagine.
He had that Warner Brothers superhero gig.
No, he got into a fight. He won it in a fight, I'm sure.
Yeah,
street fight,
yeah. Slap fight. They've got out their scissors. Who could cut bangs better?
And thankfully, that 15-year-old kid and his girlfriend snuck out and got away in time, and they really ruined his house. That was amazing. But John Peters had the script, and Gaiman hated it so much that he released it publicly, but didn't tell anyone it was him. And so, people are like, "Are you kidding me with this garbage script?" And now that, you know, it's years and years and years later, Neil Gaiman admits to it that it was him who released this script. And one or two people were like, aren't you worried about ramifications? And he's like, no, I didn't do anything illegal. And it's 25 years later. I'm pretty sure that we're past the point where I have to worry about whether or not leaking this thing is going to get me. Like
tomorrow's headline in the paper: John Peters corners Neil Gaiman in a London alleyway.
You know, it's all the difference in the world. It's so funny because, Bruce, I don't know how you felt about Neil Gaiman, but when I was growing up, it seemed like Neil Gaiman and Frank Miller were almost like the same guy, except for one was British and one was American. Like it felt that way to me.
Weird. I never felt that way.
And so, you know, for me, it did. And so now that we're where we are with Frank Miller, where it's like, some of that guy's politics are scary indeed. And then, you know, Neil Gaiman is on Twitter just punching people in the face. It's amazing because somebody was like, look, I have no problem with African-American actors, but I do have a problem. Why did you change Death to be an African-American girl when clearly this was not written for an African-American? And his response is, we only did that just to specifically piss you off.
Did it work?
He does have some great comebacks.
It's amazing.
Overall, I was shocked. I was shocked at David Thwillis in the diner episode and everything. Again, I think that was the episode before was good as well, but that was the one that made me just kind of go like, oh, I really like this show because it doesn't have to sit there and go, it's an hour-long episode, and Dream is in it like, what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if that in that episode?
And he shows up at the end.
And it is like, you watch this whole, like, that's a movie in itself. Just that whole episode is a movie, and it's done so darn well, and like, because just everything that you think that you know of what's kind of going on, and then it trips back and you're like, what is this? You're wondering if it's like a dream world or anything. It's just amazingly well done. And that it was at that point where I'm just like, okay, whatever weird stuff this show wants to throw out here, I'm all about it. And and let's talk about it, because this is like this. It felt like the most Neil Gaiman thing I've ever seen in my entire life, where you got two characters who are coming up with stories. I'm this guy. Like, it feels like it's the most him thing I've ever seen in my entire life, where they're going back and just going, I'm the breath of the world, and this is how I am, and you suck.
That's a battle that happened in the comics, but I prefer the way it was. It's been a few years, so the way it was visualized and carried out in the comics, I enjoyed a little bit more, I think, than the way that they did it here.
Okay? Give me a.
Well, like, well, it's a comic book. So when, let's just say, if I'm remembering this correctly, when one of them says like, I am the bull or whatever, they actually turn into the bull, like they're standing before him as the bull. And then he turns into whatever, and then they turn into whatever. And then they get smaller and smaller, then bigger and bigger. Still, it's great. I love it because so much of it is, taken from the comics pretty directly. It's like it used the comics as a storyboard, which I don't know why that doesn't happen more often, but that was just one that I expected them. I was like, okay, what's this CGI going to look like? What's it going to look like when they start turning into these animals and stuff? And instead they did it a way that I guess worked better for the resources they had. But I that's another reason to go check out the comic, folks. If you haven't yet, is it's got cool pictures in
it. So that's why I like comics.
Have both of you watched all 11 episodes?
I didn't watch the last animated one. I needed to catch an episode.
Okay, so
it's not just an animated episode.
Yes, that's I don't know if it's a stinger or a stinker, but you know how I say that most of these episodes they take two anthology stories and kind of put them together, and that's the same thing that episode 11 does. But the fact that they started off with animation, I think probably caused a lot of people to like tune out before it got to Calliope, which is like the main event.
And that is
the pre-show. What is it, about a 20-minute, 40-minute split on it? Would you guess, Sean?
I would guess it's about 20, 40.
Yeah, I looked and I was just like, oh my God, am I going to watch an hour-long thing of cats just walking and talking to each other? That's like
cats,
bro. Yeah. I had to check out. I was just like, I need to catch a nap before the podcast, and I can't.
That's
watch
a shame, man.
For an hour.
That's a shame, man. Because my favorite episode is the one that we were talking about earlier, but my second favorite episode is the 11th. Because of Calliope. Calliope is the frustration of being a creative person and what you are willing to do to continue to be a creative person. And it is glorious. And it is awful. And I can remember being in that situation where, like, how awful a person are you willing to be in order to keep the train running?
No, I mean, who
raises the question? Boy, I don't know. I guess we can go pretty far on it. That's what we're here to talk about, right?
Yeah.
But it also begs the question, like, it's not quite, but almost the same thing as saying you're walking home and you find a notebook with the world's greatest story written in it. There's no name on the front. Nobody saw you pick it up. So you put your name on it. It gets published. You get all the fame and the money, and you get to go on tours and book shows and act like you're smart, but you didn't write the book. So that's what I'm saying. Like with creative types, sometimes you struggle to identify, like, am I chasing the fame and the money, or am I chasing the creative act? Because I think for me, I would start to really eat away at myself if I had Milli Vanilli'd my way to fame and fortune.
Of course, but I mean that's happens.
That's kind of what the Muse is doing, though. The Muse is like the performance enhancing drug. If you
I didn't take it like that. I took it another way entirely, which is that you are the one who gets the creativity, but you have to be willing to doing something terrible in order to gain that creativity.
And then I started to, like, in my mind, that's when it started to cross over. And it's like, if you love tennis and somebody says, I'll make you the best tennis player in the world, and they just cut off your arms and put on cyborg arms and control you with remote control, and you're just along for the ride, are you really the greatest tennis? And that's where it's like, how much is you actually unlocking your creativity, and how much is it just the Muse might as will take your fingers and hit the keyboard for you?
Oh man,
there's a continuum there that you have to ask yourself about. I'm not saying it's all one way or the other, but I think sometimes when you're in the pursuit of something, you start to lose track of, like, but why? What am I aiming for here?
That's so interesting, man, because I literally read this as it's so ephemeral where ideas come from. And so I am not taking this as you've just taken a shortcut to this. I've literally taken it as, this is like, if you are motivated to do awful things in order to be a creative person, like, how far are you willing to go to be an awful person just to continue to be creative? That's literally the way that I read this.
So like another suggestion people make is like muses are an analogy for people that like need to be on shrooms or need to do drugs or alcohol to be creative or to write their music or to perform or whatever. So I think you're kind of feeling it more as something that like unlocks what's in there. Whereas I'm looking at it as like, if whoever possesses Calliope can write the world's best books, then it's not about the writer, it's about Calliope. That's how I'm starting to see it, because there's so many people that are like, think about professional sports. It probably started with one guy wanted the team he played for in his town to win. So he gave somebody $20 to play on the team that was really good. And then now you get it to a situation where professional sports are now that it's like so weird because, let's just say I live in Oakland and I'm really happy that the Golden State Warriors won the NBA title, but it's also like, what do they really, other than the fact that they play half their games in this building, it's not like is there any real local pride? There's no local kids on the team. I didn't actually get to have anything to do with it. You start to say, like, just because they play half their games here, does that mean that we as a city have really accomplished anything?
That's interesting. That we're just looking. I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's just interesting that we're both looking at the same amount of facts and we have differing point of views. I
think it's a beautiful aspect of storytelling is that two people that you, especially like you might expect me and you to have a similar look at it.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it and I'm like, there comes the point, like there are the people who it's really about success.
Yes.
More than about creating something they're proud of. And then there's people where it's a little too much about being obsessed with what you're creating and not enough about practicality.
Yes.
And then there's a spectrum in between there. And I think that a lot of people don't really know what their goal is.
So Bruce, I have a book recommendation for you. It's called The Bear Came Down the Mountain. And so the basis, it's a funny book. Like it's actually hilarious. And basically it's dude writes the world's greatest novel. And as he's about to head back into town to drop it off to his editor, he has to pull over on the side of the road to go to the bathroom. And he leaves his briefcase leaning up against the side of a tree. And he goes to the bathroom. And as he's going to the bathroom, this bear is walking through the woods and notices this briefcase and takes it home with him. And so the author is going insane because he can't find his briefcase with the world's greatest novel in it. So the bear opens up the briefcase and reads the novel and goes, wow, this is the world's greatest novel. So he crosses off the author's name and he writes his own name, Bear, over it.
Are you pulling my leg? This is
I
the
swear
scenario
to God.
I just like gave you as a what if.
No. I swear to God. It is The Bear Came Down the Mountain. It is so wonderful. So Bear then submits novel and it gets all the praise in the world because it's the bear. This bear just wrote the world's greatest novel. And so the bear starts becoming more and more civilized the more he stays in town, whereas the author is turning more and more into a bear as he's going crazy in the woods.
I like it.
It is such a great book, and it's so well written, and it's so fun.
And it's called The Bear Came Over the Mountain?
The Bear Came Down the Mountain.
The Bear Came Down the Mountain. I'm going to check that one out.
Oh, God, it's so good. I'm sorry, I just took us totally off track.
That's great, though. That's great. But, yeah, Calliope's good. You need to go back and finish out that episode 11.
It's my second favorite episode, and the only reason why it's my second favorite and not my favorite is because it is such a bummer. It is such a bummer of an episode. Whereas the sixth one, where he's going to see his friend every 100 years, ends on such a wonderful high note and inspirational note, where it's like, oh, this is something this show is sorely lacking. And so to have that an episode end so well and just so like full of hope and love, it's just like, man, this is great.
That probably would be better because man, oh man, when it gets into some of these later episodes, some things get dark, boy.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, like, I don't know. I didn't part of me was like, well, boy, I wish I would have parsed this out a little bit more so I could shower in between episodes, because there's a couple of times where it's just like, oh boy, why did I know it's good job because it's meant to do what it's meant to do, and it does it, because I just go, oh no, please, God.
Adam, do you feel like you ever got a good look at the Corinthians' eyes?
Not as, here's the thing, because like I know that I've seen panels from the books and stuff back in the day. I got a better idea of what it looks like in my head from panels and stuff, and I don't feel like we got as good a look at that.
Okay, I was hoping maybe you weren't that familiar with him from the comics. I'm trying to see what somebody thinks, because I'm watching it and I'm thinking, if I don't know who the Corinthian is, I don't know that what they're giving me on screen makes it clear.
No, I think you're correct. They may have mentioned it in passing, perhaps somewhere within the story that's what it was, but like not very well, and it's not awesome. I'm kind of glad they keep the glasses on as long as they do.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to bring to a live.
Well, yeah, because it's like, I mean, look at
They should have gone like Roger Rabbit style. You know, when he took the glasses off, suddenly his eyes were like toon eyes.
Ooh, that is awesome.
But like, you look at Doctor Strange, like that third eye still looks like garbage. It's just like, it's so the
well,
eye.
What are you going to do? You got VFX guys working 20 hours a day trying to make that happen. Like,
hey, listen, they can crack the whip a little bit more on them.
Oh my Lord!
Right? Huh?
Well, I look at it this way.
Send your resume out there, man. Let's get you doing some VFX.
Yeah, there's 8 billion of the companies and stuff, so I don't know. But it's I forgot where I was going with it. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about for a second. Let's talk about Mason Alexander Park, who plays Desire in this.
Okay.
And I did not realize this, but Mason Alexander Park is a former Nickelodeon kid. That's iCarly, right? It's Nickelodeon.
Okay.
I think so.
I think it is too. And so I did not recognize this person as someone who was on a Nickelodeon show when they were a kid. So I kind of didn't put it together, but there was something so very familiar about them that I couldn't figure it out. And so I was like, where do I know this person from? And I had to look it up, and I was like, oh my God, it's iCarly. And so this is another one of those actors where, like, we're probably, because like I know that Mason Alexander Park is on the new Quantum Leap show, and like is in a bunch of different stuff where like they're about to blow up, like almost made it with the Cowboy Bebop thing, except for that just landed with a thud. But the Quantum Leap show is probably going to be a very big deal. And so, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it's going to be one of those retrospectives of like, and this person here was a child actor, and look how they turned out. They're so amazing, kind of like a Jodie Foster or, like a Will Smith kind of a thing, where like just a massive success story.
Get them on some drugs. That's how they do. Kid actors love the drugs. But at the same time, too, you know what I thought while watching this?
Oh, I wanted to just add to that. I didn't know if this was going to be part of your story. Do you know how Mason got the part?
I don't.
On Twitter, they just tweeted out, "Hey, Neil Gaiman, why don't you let me be Desire in the Sandman show?" Neil Gaiman's like, "I'll consider it."
Is that all it takes? Let me text him right now.
I need to be just tweeting out some of these people. Just be like, hey, listen, not for nothing. If you want me to be in your thing, I'll do it. It's just, just for me. Why not? This Mason, I look, and you know what I see when I see this? Because just from the proportions, and I mean this in a good way, because Hollywood has a lot of people with big heads and like little slender bodies and stuff like that. I look at Mason and I just go, you do it upright, maybe a little bit of prosthetics on the face and stuff, you could have a really good looking Joker here.
Oh, that's good.
Like I could see that, just the slender build, the big head, and just the kind of striking features in the face, quite frankly.
Have you guys seen that painted art on Twitter this week of that artist who made Chris Farley the Joker?
No.
It's amazing.
Oh, I gotta look that one up.
It's amazing. It looks amazing. It actually made me like my heart feel empty a little bit, because I was like, oh my God, that would have been perfect.
But I was just like, oh yeah, this gonna be a good Joker that's going around. Like I don't know, that was another thought. And the Kubrick-esque set that Desire is on is just like, what in the world?
I know.
I kind of love it. It's just so bizarre and weird. I love what they're doing with everyone's voices and stuff, putting on these just weird filters that will go like just strangely deep, but it doesn't quite feel like it's almost a filter in a way or something. Just real good sound design stuff. A lot of really interesting choices within this show, and I liked it so much.
So, what did you guys think of the cliffhanger ending with the forces of hell getting ready to potentially invade Dream?
See, I don't know where anything goes, and like to me, it's I don't like. It felt like a dangling participle a little bit, but I have zero clue as to what to kind of expect. Let me just for a half a second here, just because we're sort of on account of it and talking about hell. Gwendolyn Christie's hair just drives me up a wall. I don't like it. I think she's a fine actor. I don't, have at, but like the hair and I'm just like, what is like Grandma Dutch Boy going on? It drives me up the wall. I couldn't handle it.
I think that's probably a wig. I mean, she does have blonde hair about that length, but I mean, it might be real. I don't know. I'm no hair expert. I've never been to the wig sphere in years.
Not yet.
But anyway, I think they're trying to be really comic book accurate on that when you look at some of the artwork from the first appearance of Lucifer and Sandman. So maybe I'll put some of the blame on who's his nuts, the guy who's the original artist.
Oh man, I couldn't tell you at this point, man.
Rembrandt, probably
a week ago, but I can't tell you now.
It's been so long.
But I don't know why, but for whatever reason, just like I'm like, can I take the devil seriously with the? Okay, sure, I guess so.
And can we talk about what what we'd like to see next year, next season?
That's kind of why I was asking what you thought about the cliffhanger, because I don't think like a story arc that's a large scale war between the forces of Dream and Hell works for this show.
No, nor do I. I want to see Death, the High Cost of Living. I want to see. The one story that takes place in Arabia, like those. That's the stuff I want to see.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more of the anthology stuff. They kind of flirted with William Shakespeare a little bit this season.
Mm-hmm. So that'll definitely be showing up next year.
Yeah, so I want to, and I'm really hoping, given the tenuous situation with both Warner Brothers and Netflix, that they've got a real nice, tight 2 to 3 season max outline.
Yeah,
I want them to wrap this up before it gets gets Netflixed or Warner Brother. Take your pick.
Yeah,
2 that don't have a great record of continuing good things but letting bad things go on too long.
Yeah, but also, I mean, there is a finite time to this thing too, which is nice.
Yeah, but you could probably stretch this out over more than 3 seasons, but I wouldn't mind if they go down the home stretch, give us a good anthology season next season, then season 3 go down the home stretch with the way that the story ends.
I think that this is going to be one of the properties that Netflix has where they're just going to be very, very happy that they have it for years to come. Because it's going to be one of those stories that people come back to all the time.
Yeah, and with Calliope saying she wanted to talk to him about their son, that is maybe kind of painting a little foreshadowing for the home stretch of the story, and that could all be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple of fun things here that I remember. That I don't know why it stuck out to me so much, but in the Serial Convention, Stephen Fry just walking around, going into rooms, and then looking aghast as to all of the things that are being said about. I don't know why, because it looks like it looked like they put him in the same room over and over.
Yeah,
but had him just kind of do a slightly different reaction, so they didn't dress it up every
panel
time.
And then him, it would be not exactly a tight shot, but there would be just him in a doorway and the look on his face. Where you're absolutely right, Adam. They probably just gave him a bunch from a doorway that's not even on the same continent as where they were filming the rest.
So then they're like, "We'll film the exterior it'll say what's in there each time. It'll be fine, but we need you to come in and we just need you to just like they didn't even tell him what they were saying. It's just like, look aghast.
He had a certain like naivete and sweetness about him that was perfect for Fiddler's Green, though, because Fiddler's Green's not a nightmare. Fiddler's Green is like one of those happy places. So it's just kind of funny to see Fiddler's Green.
And man, you want to talk about a Neil Gaiman / Alan Moore idea? Like, it doesn't get much more.
Okay, like, so Fiddler's Green is 100% an Alan Moore kind of thing, in my opinion. But the Serial Convention, that's Garth Ennis. I never really thought so much about it, and then I'm watching it this time, and I'm thinking, like, man, suddenly this is really reminding me of stuff that would fit in better on Preacher than here on Sandman when I'm watching some of the Serial Convention stuff. And I'm thinking how, how I'm shocked that Garth Ennis probably pulls out his own hair. Why didn't I think of the bloody Serial Convention?
I'm going to make a book that's just about a serial killer convention.
Yes.
But at the same time, too, I feel like if he had done something like that, it would have, like, as creepy and almost kind of down and realistic as a lot of that stuff is or can be, I suppose. Like, Preacher would have just gone in a direction that would have just really brought down the house here. And, like, maybe too much for this show. But, like, I don't know. I just thought, like, all of these people need to be much more.
But I think that Preacher has, at least in the books, there's the friend that's the serial killer, and then from there you go to Jesus Desaad. Like, you're not gonna. It's way too similar to have a third thing where it's like, oh, and there's a serial killer convention they're going to.
Yeah, but it does feel very Garth Ennis. But then when you look at the publication order, this was published before Preacher, but it still feels so Garth Ennis.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Shout out again. I forget the actress's name, and it's stupid. IMDb puts things all in a strange order. The lady who was in Ted Lasso and everything. I love this lady so much. She was so good in that show, and then when she shows up here, I'm super excited. And Lord have mercy, pulls out another fantastic performance.
She's so good, and I was waiting for that accent to drop. Because, she is so cripplingly British, and to have her have that great accent, it was really wonderful.
I was just, it's one of those things where you're sitting there, and I love when somebody is so good at storytelling. We have two actors just sitting in a car talking, and it is absolutely gripping. And to me, that's just so good.
I know that people have been slamming on the Marvel Spider-Man movies, but that scene with Keaton in the car, that's the scariest part of almost any Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm just going to do it with a nice smile on my face because of Michael Keaton. I could die any second.
Yeah, that was a nice tense scene. Hard to up that one. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think we've pretty much discussed it all the way through.
Well, in that case, there's only one other thing that we need to do, and that is find out how this show connects one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone. He did it. He had a hard time last time. I don't know what in the world he's going to do now. Sean, what do you got?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Ooh. There has been some new information.
Oh, it's come to light.
Mr. Stallone, if I could have a few minutes of your time, I'd like to speak to you about Colin P. Brown. He works for a company called Frame Store, a British VFX company owned by a massive Chinese media conglomerate called Cultural Investment Holdings. I looked around to see if there was anything illegal or scary about CIH, and I haven't found anything. But if I've learned one thing from movies over the years, it's to never trust something called Cultural Investment Holdings. There's a real happy fun ball quality to that thing. Colin P. Brown is a VFX colorist. So if you watched The Sandman or Ant-Man or Godzilla and screamed out to your loved ones, "You idiots need to get in here and look at the lush and vibrant colors of these ants," then you have Colin P. Brown to thank. This week's connection to you, Mr. Stallone, isn't because of his previous work, but because of the work he's currently working on. He's the VFX colorist on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which also stars you, Sylvester Stallone, as your character, Stacker Orgward. I always mess up that name because it's such a stupid name. As I was doing some half-assed internet research, I was looking through the Guardians 3 IMDb page, and I found this amazing bit of trivia. This will be the third, I'm quoting now, this will be the third major closer of a more or less standalone trilogy, with the release year ending in 3, following Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, 1983, and The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, 2003, each 20 years apart. Thanks, IMDb, and thank you for listening, Mr. Stallone. I'll talk to you next week. Your pal, Sweet Shawnsy from the internet.
And as always, if you see Sylvester Stallone on the street, why don't you grab him, shake him a little bit, say thank you for all of your work, and point him towards H&P, will you? I'm sure somebody's out there. Just go see him. I'm sure he's at a Coffee Bean or something, and you know, just say hi. He's at what was it, Kansas?
Ask him when Creed 3's coming out. I'm getting restless.
He's I don't think you want to bring that up, actually. As a matter
Not
of
to him.
Not to that guy. No, dodge it up a little bit. All right, here Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does the first season of The Sandman fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Genuinely enjoyable. Not, in my opinion, bingeable. I don't think it lends itself to being binge watched. Plan on taking in an episode at a time. That's my advice. No real stinkers for me of the bunch. I didn't really care much for the animated part of episode 11, but that's a bonus episode, so it's hard to take points off for that. So all in all, I'm going to give it a good, solid, level 4 Tim Drake.
A level 4 Tim Drake. All right, John.
Level 4, semicolon, Tim Drake.
Do it correctly.
I'm stealing Bruce's rating system. This is a level 4 Tim Drake for me too. You can't call it perfect because it isn't perfect, but it is really great. It's not a waste of your time. It's just a really nice, fun watch when it's fun.
I was about to say.
And it's going to tell, and I mean, it makes you think about a couple of things too. I mean, Bruce and I got into a discussion, not an argument, a discussion about the way that we read episode 11 and how we read it differently. Yeah. And that is very rare.
And I think one of the best, if I'm allowed to interject here a little bit, I think one of the best things I would say too is it's a Sandman show that I think Sandman comic fans won't hate, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, you're not wrong, because they used to be boisterous. I don't know if they make their presence known much anymore. Do you know that, Bruce?
We're all pushing 50. We don't make as much noise as we used to.
Hey, I just crossed the 40. Come on now. I got a little ways. For me,
Adam and I are both in our 40s.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm 41, which puts me on the verge of 50, so I just go ahead and round up.
Just keep going upwards. It's Tim Drake for me as well. Like I said, I think Bruce is absolutely correct. This is not. I got all these episodes within 3 days, so it wasn't that bad, but it was enough to where, boy, an episode a day would have been enough. Would have been fine, because there's some moments and stuff where, like, oh my God, things just turn, and you're just like, I don't like this world. Like, but again, ultimately, like it's good for storytelling and it's what it's meant to do. But God, there's some stuff that's just like, oh Jesus, I don't want to be here right now. No. But good stuff overall. And I was for like I said last time, something that I was familiar with the idea, the brand, the thing that makes this, but I'd never really known enough about it to have anything, and this has sparked at least enough of an interest to where I'm going like, let's see what they're going to do with season 2, and hopefully this is, Netflix and numbers, who's to say how any of that crap works, but hopefully this is at least successful enough to where, maybe they'll just, like I said, I just want them to have enough money and everything to do the things that they want to do and tell the story the way that they want to tell it, and hopefully that's a good way.
That is a good way to put it, yes.
So that is it, everybody. Like we said, we got a lot of other fun stuff coming up. But Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I'd love for people to check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. I got a video. It's short. It's only like 4 minutes, and it's talking about, I think it's called Top 5 Books I'd Like to See Made into Anime. Like I said, it's short. It's 4 minutes. I think it's got some broad appeal. I'd like to recommend people go check that one out.
Man, the Clifford the Big Red Dog anime would just be ripping, wouldn't it?
It would run. Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Ripper.
Sean, what else?
In about 3 weeks, 3 weeks, is it? Maybe. 3 weeks away.
Okay.
In 3 weeks, we're going to have a new 30 question show called Andor 30 Questions. It's about Cassian Andor in the show Andor. And it's on Disney Plus. And I can't wait to not hate Star Wars again. It's going to be so fun.
Imagine you were 9 years old, Sweet Shanzi, and some kid walked up to you and said, when you're a grown-up, there will be a Cassian Andor show. What would you have said to that?
I would have said, who's Cassian Andor?
I'd be like, oh, man, I love wrestling.
I saw a video of I had his name in the actor
Diego
Luna talking about what he thought R2D2's name was when he was growing up, because their English isn't the same, and I forget what. Like I'll try to find a link to it and everything. But
that's great. Please,
just, if you see that, good stuff. That is it, everyone. So this week we're going to be doing, or next week rather, we're starting more fantasy. Sandman's kind of fantasy-esque, if you will.
Absolutely fantasy.
It's absolutely fantasy. What are you talking about?
So I don't know. Listen, I'm trying to. But so we're going to be shifting into all fantasy here in the month of September. If you heard our Dinger Zone there, if you're a Patreon supporter, you heard that. You know these things. So we're going to be doing fantasy, and next week we're going to be talking about the first 3 episodes of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power on Prime.
So we're going 3 episodes on that?
Because they'll have a new one this week. There's 2. They launched with 2, so by the time we this one we'll have 3. Yeah.
Okay.
And how long?
They're over an hour per ep, I think. So let's just say 2.
I mean, the 2.
Let's just say 2.
All right.
There's only so much of people walking around with dirty feet.
Do you know how many of these things I've watched this week? All right, but anyways, so we'll be talking about.
Whose fault is that, sir?
Mine. It's all yes. Well, a little bit of the Patreon people because they.
No, it is all on you.
I think we're going to call it our Fall Fantasy Fest in September.
Oh,
you know what? That's terrific, Bruce. You've done it again.
Son of a gun! 2 times in 1 week.
Fall Fantasy Fest.
We got to stop.
We need music for our Fall Fantasy Fest.
I'll come up with something.
It's too scary.
We'll have some.
Oh, this is it.
Ooh, I like it.
All fantasy.
So hopefully all of your fantasies will come true as you stick back here week after week with HMP. Again, giant thank you to everybody who supports us. Patreon.com/HMP. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking the Rings of Power for Sweet Sean to go back from the internet. Bruce Hussey, I'm in a fortress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty.
Every night I hope and pray the dream lover will come my way. Yeah, girl, to hold in my arms and know the magic of her charms, because I want her. Yeah, girl, to call, yeah, my own. I want a dream lover so I don't have to dream alone. I'm a dream lover, where are you? With a love so true, in a hand that I can hold to be near as I grow old, because I want to, yeah, girl, to call my own. I want a dream lover so I don't have to dream alone. Yeah, someday, I don't know how, I hope she'll hear my plea. Some way, I don't know how, she'll bring her love to me. Dream lover, until then I go to sleep and I dream again. That's the only thing to do till all my lovers' dreams come true, because I want her, yeah, girl.